The Manchester Derby is one of the most heated rivalries in football. The two teams, United and City, so different in colors and philosophy, are always eager to stick it to each other. Though they seem strikingly different, there's one thing they have in common. Some of their transfers are really weird. There's always a chance of failure, surely, but some signings look so irrational and controversial that you can't help but question the transfer policy. Goal 24 brings you the list of the weirdest signings of the Manchester clubs, 5 for each side. But before we move on, this question is for you. This footballer left Man United for their arch rivals Man City in 2009 to end up winning the Premier League with both of these clubs. Who is that? Owen, Tevez, Robinho, Berbatov. Manchester United transfers. José Cleberson Pereira. On August 13, 2003, a player was introduced at Old Trafford, the one who was meant to become a legend, called Cristiano Ronaldo. On that very day, another Man United signing was introduced, the defensive midfielder from Brazil, José Cleberson. It was supposed that Ferguson needed him as backup or an occasional substitution for the 32-year-old Irishman Roy Keane. Whether Cleberson had hopes of making it into the first 11 or not, it was not meant to be. Though he was decent during the World Cup 2002 and even assisted Ronaldo's second goal, he had little experience at club level with only a couple of seasons at Atlético Paranaense. As he later said, the reason for the move was his Brazil teammate Ronaldinho, who told Cleberson he wanted to play for United. José was too eager to play alongside the brilliant Ronnie and was too quick to sign the contract. But Ronaldinho broke his promise, and Cleberson didn't seem to be ready for such a change of scene. That caught United by surprise, and what is more, the Brazilian got injured in his second Premier League game. That was like a bad omen, and indeed he turned out to be a failure in England and left for Besiktas 2 years later. He has never played in a top 5 league ever since. That's how different things turned out for the two players who arrived at Old Trafford on the same day. Gabriel Obertan. This Man United signing they made in 2009 is still impossible to explain. United bought Gabriel Obertan, the French winger from Bordeaux, who cost them €4 million. That was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the Bordeaux benchwarmer. And yes, he was literally a backup player. He played 1,409 minutes in 2.5 seasons at Bordeaux, which makes the average of 563 minutes per season, which is 6 full matches per season. A bench warmer as he was. No wonder he was loaned out to Lorient. There he played 15 games, mostly coming in as a sub, and scored once. But then at the end of the 2008 and 9 season, Man United came. It's hard to tell what drew the Red Devils' attention to the winger, but Gabriel was sold without a second thought. Once in the new club, he got a calf injury first thing, so he made his debut as late as in October. Nothing good came from it, as you might have guessed, so Gabriel was back to the bench as he made only one more appearance that season. All in all, the Frenchman played 14 games for United, didn't score a single goal and was sold to Newcastle for €3 million. $1 million cheaper than he was signed for. Bebe. There's been a number of great Portuguese players at Man United. Ronaldo, Nani, Bruno Fernandes and others would bring delight to the United fans with their goals, assists and skills. Unfortunately, Bebe is not among them. The Portuguese had a promising start at his first club, Estrela. He scored 4 goals in 26 games before moving to Vitória de Guimarães. He didn't even play once for his new club as he caught the eye of Carlos Queiroz, the former Alex Ferguson's assistant. It was Queiroz who persuaded the Man United head coach to sign the youngster, so Bebe moved to Manchester with only 1 year of experience. Then the media wrote about Bebe taking part in the Homeless World Cup and scoring 40 goals in 6 games. That made Man United bosses even more keen on signing him, but the reality turned out to be disappointing. Bebe played only 2 matches for Man United that season, and then was loaned out. That's what you should expect from such an inexperienced player who was bought only because someone advised to do so, even though it was Queiroz. By the way, Bebe is still playing for Rayo Vallecano and has made 2 assists in La Liga so far. Zoran Tosic. The 34-year-old Serb, who is currently playing for Tobol from Kazakhstan, was signed by Manchester United, the reigning champion, in 2009. After Ronaldo left for Madrid, Ferguson was in desperate need of a pacey winger. In Tosic, he saw the qualities needed, but eventually the Serb didn't fit the level required. That is no wonder, as Tosic had spent no more than 2 seasons at Partizan, and before that he fought against relegation with a smaller club, Banat. While in England, he played 2 games and scored no goals. Though the Russian fans still loved the Serb and his performance for CSKA Moscow, in Manchester though, it went the wrong for him right from the start. While Kleberson was introduced alongside Cristiano Ronaldo, Tosic was signed on the same day Adam Ljajic was built, so he was pretty much doomed. By the way, CSKA was also in Ljajic some time ago. Seems like this club is too interested in the Serbs who had failed at Manchester United. Donny van de Beek. All those players we've already mentioned lacked either experience or quality. Some of them could have trained harder. Donny van de Beek is of a different kind. He was brilliant at Ajax and was never injury-prone. So the reason for his poor performance at the new club was the way he was used. He had no chance to play his favorite position, number 10. Bruno Fernandes, the team leader, is the one playing this role, and of course he has always been untouchable. Though the transfer always seemed ambiguous, Donny did have a good start as he scored against Crystal Palace after being subbed in, but Solskjaer failed to find a place for the Dutchman. As a result, last season Van de Beek started 4 games, and this season he has had no more than 60 minutes played in the Premier League, though he scored in Solskjaer's final game as a head coach. As for now, no one seems to have trust in Donny, just like the Dutchman himself. It is believed he is about to change clubs and leave the theatre of dreams this winter. Manchester City transfers. Felipe Caicedo. The Ecuadorian striker scored 11 goals in 45 games for Basel, and that was enough to be signed by Manchester City for 7 million euros. That was a risk the citizens often took in those days, as once again they bought a player from a weaker league, hoping he would maintain his level. What was his level? That's a good question. After all, Caicedo scored once in 4 games as a striker for the strongest team of the country. Anyway, that was a very optimistic signing, which was unlikely to be worth it, as it's always better for a top club to sign players who have already proved their quality. Yet Manchester City signed the striker nonetheless. The sum of 7 million made this deal a record departure for the Swiss Super League. As you would expect, Caicedo didn't become a Premier League star. He didn't score in his first season for Man City and had only 4 goals in his second one. At that point, it was clear what was coming next. He was loaned out, then signed for Levante in 2011, and after a 2-year spell there, moved to Lokomotiv Moscow. He's still playing for Genoa with 1 goal and 2 assists so far this season. Joe. While Zoran Tosic wasn't good enough for Man United and left for CSKA, the right fit for him, the Brazilian striker Joe's story was a direct opposite. His performance for CSKA was more than decent, so as soon as there was interest from City, he jumped at that opportunity. In 2008, Manchester City made the deal worth 24 million euros, which was the record signing back then. We must mention that City struggled to find a quality striker in those days, forced to play with Caicedo or Muwaruwari. And Joe as well was unable to meet the Premier League standards. After scoring 1 goal for City, he was loaned out to Everton. He was back to Manchester after the spell was over, but only to be loaned out again to Galatasaray. It all ended in 2011 when Joe was back home as City let him join Internacional for free. He had quite a journey later, however. He played in China, Japan and UAE. As for now, Joe has finally settled down as a Corinthians player. Roque Santa Cruz. In 2008, Sven-Göran Eriksson was fired by Manchester City and Mark Hughes took over. And of course, as a new City manager, he had no choice but to make a controversial signing, and surely that had to be a striker. So Hughes didn't think twice and persuaded the Sheikhs to sign his former player, Santa Cruz, from Blackburn. Seems like Hughes was too impressed with his performance in the 2007-8 season, as the striker managed to score 19 goals for the Rovers. However, for some reason, Mark Hughes overlooked the following season completely, and that was not very wise of him, as that season Rockets scored only 4 goals and got a serious knee injury. So when he moved to City, his form was really poor, and the new beginning was not meant to be found. Rockets' first City goal came as late as in December, the second one in March, and as soon as Hughes was sacked, he even stopped being a part of a matchday squad. Then he was loaned out to Blackburn, Betis and Malaga, and finally left Man City in 2013. Who knows, maybe the Paraguayan would have had a much better career if he hadn't followed his manager. Craig Bellamy. As a rule, scouts look at many things if they consider signing a player. The way he plays, his cost, age, injury proneness, and so on. Sometimes the personality of a player is also taken into account. It looks as though it wasn't the case of Craig Bellamy, as Man City bought the Welshman from West Ham in 2009. The ex-Hummer had 7 goals and 2 assists in 24 games. Not so impressive, but it was not about stats. He was 30, and the temper of the Welsh bad boy is what he was notorious for. He would fake injury while at Newcastle, hit his Liverpool teammate Rize with a golf club, and there are more incidents to have made Craig a bad name. Just for you to understand, that's what Alan Shearer, the Newcastle legend, said about Bellamy. I was having a few days away in France with Gary Speed and Steve Harper and the wives, and I picked up the newspaper. I was having a fantastic day, but when I read Bellamy for Newcastle, I thought I would definitely have to have another drink. I had several. Bellamy didn't stop being a nuisance at City. In September 2009, after a derby game, the United fan ran onto the pitch. He got caught by the stewards, but it didn't stop the Welshman from punching him in the face. There were more stories like the one when he refused to shake hands with John Terry, but his fate was sealed by that time. Though the Welshman's performance was at times decent, he was too bad a teammate, so it couldn't last long. In 2011, he fell out for Roberto Mancini, the new City head coach, and his Man City spell ended as he went to Cardiff on loan. After that, Craig had a short spell at Liverpool and 2 more seasons at Cardiff before he retired in 2014. Mike Cohn. Manchester City managed to win the 2011-12 Premier League title and hoped to build on that. That's why Mike Cohn was signed, once the world's best right back. But at Man City he was but a shadow of his former self. Since the Champions League victory, he had a decline in every aspect: speed, stamina, injury proneness. 31-year-old Mike Cohn had missed more than 20 games in his last 2 seasons at Inter before he moved to Manchester. The reason for such a signing was Roberto Mancini, who knew the player well. Mike Cohn was keen on playing for his former manager's side again, but that was a wrong choice. Only 4 times he made it into the starting 11, and all in all he made 9 appearances that season. Then Mancini was sacked, and Manuel Pellegrini, the new head coach, didn't see Mike Cohn as a part of his squad, so the Brazilian had to move to Roma and then was back to Brazil. Bonus: Owen Hargreaves. We've decided to put one more player on our list. This one played for both United and City and had no success at either of them. 14 years ago, Owen Hargreaves was signed by Manchester United and introduced alongside Nani, by the way. His career was a most unusual one. Born in Canada, in the family of the British emigrants, Owen made his first steps in football there before moving to Bayern Munich Academy. Pretty soon he made it into the first team and won a number of trophies, 4 Bundesliga titles and the Champions League. Though during his 2 last seasons in Bayern, the injuries were an issue as Owen played only 25 games. Strangely enough, that didn't stop Manchester United from spending 25 million euros. Even though the injuries were still there, the first season was fantastic for Hargreaves as he won the Premier League and the Champions League. But in the end, his biggest problem, overlooked by his new club for some reason, overtook him. Owen had a surgery on his knee, then another surgery on another knee. Yet that didn't heal his chronic injuries, so in 2011 he left Manchester. Though it was its red part he left, as his new club was Manchester City. No wonder United fans were heartbroken, but it is a wonder he was signed by City. Why would they need a player who's that injury prone and who had already failed at Man United? The only explanation possible is that the Sheikhs hoped for a miracle, that Hargreaves' injury would go away so City would succeed where United had failed. The only bright side was the price, as Owen came as a free agent. He cost City nothing, still it's hard to tell why he would even be there. Anyway, such an unexpected move turned out to be a disappointment for everyone. Hargreaves made only one appearance in the blue shirt, and then his injury issues made him retire. We have to give credit to the Manchester clubs though. There has been way less controversial signings in recent years. Seems like the bosses can learn from their mistakes and sign the right players. Good news for the City and United fans surely, but for those who support neither of these clubs it may come as a disappointment. Such weird and awkward transfers make football more interesting and unpredictable, don't they? And what do you think? Is there anyone missing? Let us know. See ya!